So I mean, I could do something like this and walk away. Yeah, you hear? Exactly. Don't do that. Why? Why not? So I can go back and I can reactivate this in a few minutes. And it's gonna go ahead and all blend in. It's not gonna cause that ring. It doesn't seal it in the same way that does. Most of these stains also have higher oil contents like linseed oil. So guess what? That penetrates in and that seals your floor immediately. Well, now I can go ahead and I can buff in a coat of neutral or a light brown and I could thin that out because it's gonna reactivate it, right? So that's one of the big advantages as well. Alcohol and water mix. Even if this stain is a little wet after an hour, hour and a half, but you gotta coat it, you're still gonna have a perfect adhesion because it's alcohol and water, they mix. They're not gonna fight each other for the same space like you would with an oil. So you saw that. So now I'll just put a little bit on. See? No line, no mark, no circle mark, no can mark. So generally why I like to use a lamb's wool is because you can saturate a lot better. I could put it on a little bit thicker. You also want to use a slightly damp rag. You're not going to go ahead and grab a new rag every single time. You don't need to. It doesn't need to get every single speck off of the surface like you do with an oil. An oil, everything's got to come off because it'll never dry. Where this stuff, it's already drying on its own. So if I'm using a slightly damp rag, it makes it a lot easier to blend in rather than using a dry one again and now pulling too much pigment out of the surface. So I always use a lightly damp rag. I mean, on 2,000 square feet, I may only go through 5 towels, 6 towels. Cross grain. I can go ahead and get ahead of myself. The cutting guy can go 10, 12, 15 feet. He doesn't have to stick to small little sections. He can cut in everything in beforehand. And then once I come in with the buffer, or if I'm wiping off my hand, I can blend in all those edges just fine because it's not going to be a hard line. That urethane hasn't sealed that section off yet. And then when I come back, if I come back too quick, you know, a little bit too longer with the urethane, now I'm double staining in that one area. You can have blotchy areas or dark spots. Where with alcohol, you don't have that issue. I mean, if you're stuck in a closet, you're gonna do it. I would wear a mask. I mean, it is solvents, right? I mean, so we don't wanna go by inhaling all this stuff, but blend right into that. That was already setting up a little bit, going cross grain. Squeeze it out, and now you're actually getting really dark color. These are very heavily pigmented. Again, this isn't gonna wipe off all of your trim and baseboard. This is very aggressive. So just be careful with that stuff. Come back, I'm gonna use this side. Yeah. Not gonna use that wet side, right? The dry side, because I wanna go ahead and blend this in. So make sure that it's a little damp, get the same color. Boom, you're done. So I go in this width of a section, as much as I can grab, I go from here all the way down to the end of the wall. By the time I get 6 feet, my guy's already wiping off. Yeah, or then I'll probably do a panel like this, and then have the guy go cut in, then I'll lamb's wool it, and then buff it in or buff it on. And I'll work in these kind of sections. Pretty much what you got here. If I come back from lunch and the customer says, you know what, it's just too dark, we changed our mind, I'll go ahead and I'll buff in neutral, and it'll start pulling some of that pigment out, and you just have to use a little bit more towels and stuff like that just to keep pulling it off. But yes, you could lighten this up, you could darken the ones. Why? Because these reactivate each other.